Breaking news, the Clippers sued over their handling of Kawhi Leonard, including allegations of tampering. Where is this going to go? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're going to keep you up to date on the latest going on in the NBA. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, bombshell revealed here by Chris Haynes. We're going to try and parse through this. I mean, on one hand, I get it. We knew the Clippers were tampering with Kawhi Leonard, but also allegations that they mishandled his injury situation. This has the potential to be massive.
Yeah, this is kind of insane. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover it, but you guys can at any point feel free to also check it out for yourself, because last I saw there was literally 70 different notations of different complaints or things that were going on as part of this. And there's a lot of elaboration that we're just simply not going to be able to get to. But this is ridiculous. And it's just crazy that everything surrounding Kawhi right now is just ridiculous. So we didn't expect to see this. So let's get into it.
Yeah, let's go. So here it is. Randy Shelton, who was a former, essentially a trainer with the Clippers, saying that he's alleging that he was dismissed from his position as retaliation for him sort of waving the red flag and saying, hey, you guys are not handling Kawhi's injury situation properly. He was promised that he would not be retaliated against for doing that. And he says that he was targeted and subjected to discriminatory and harassing content. Now, we should note that the Clippers have already released a statement saying they deny any of this, of course, and saying that this is just a shakedown from Randy Shelton. That's the term that the Clippers use, that he's just trying to get money out of them. So the Clippers are denying any of this, but this is what the actual lawsuit alleges. So basically saying that he was let go, terminated from the company, as a retaliation for raising concerns about Kawhi Leonard's health and safety here.
Yeah, I just checked it, and he was actually let go in July of 2023. So he's been gone for about a year and a half now. And it definitely is pretty interesting, because when you get deep into this, they start talking about how he was telling him Kawhi shouldn't be playing in so many games. They promised that Kawhi wouldn't be playing back-to-backs. And then if you remember at the end of that season, they were trying to make the playoff push, and Kawhi's minutes actually ticked up a good bit. And he was playing in, I believe, 45-minute game there as well, 36, 38. And they were pushing for him to play 30 to 32 minutes. So definitely mishandling, despite, basically promising that they wouldn't treat him that way. So there's a lot here.
There's a lot here. And then there's this. Shelton's hiring with the LA Clippers. This is again from Shelton's side, alleging this was the culmination of a multi-year campaign by the LA Clippers to sign Kawhi Leonard in disregard for the NBA's prohibitions on tampering. Oh boy. So this is where the NBA may get extra involved here if they're able to determine that, yeah, the Clippers, and we all know they were doing it, and a lot of teams do through back channels and things like that. But the things that are in here that the Clippers are alleged to have done go far and beyond, I think, what you would expect teams to do under tampering. This is where the Clippers could face some penalties, certainly, from the NBA if this turns out to be true. In terms of the Clippers, essentially the allegation is Randy Shelton, who was with San Diego State University, which is where Kawhi went to school. He followed Kawhi to the Spurs and then to the Raptors. And now the allegation is that the Clippers hired him solely to lure Kawhi to their team and did other stuff too, which we'll get into. That could really come back to bite the Clippers.
Yeah, so like you were saying here, I'm pretty positive there's a lot of back channeling and a lot of tampering and stuff that we just simply don't hear about. And we're hearing about it here because of, I don't know, the public lawsuit going on here.
Yes,
But
exactly.
that being said, this is still pretty crazy when we talk about kind of what was happening behind the scenes during that Raptors tenure. And it really sets a precedent for what happens, the next couple of months there, and how he chose the LA team. But everybody knew he was going to LA. It was just kind of a weird turnout for Kawhi at that time anyway. So we're going to dive into that here as well. But I wanted to say too, I don't know, like you talked about penalties. I don't want to make any sweeping statements or anything, but this feels like if the NBA gets involved in this, it's not like a monetary thing, really. They're going to probably try to, go after draft assets or something else that has to really, because you've got Ballmer there, and you've got to play by you've got to keep things even, but they know that if they fine Ballmer $10 million or whatever it is, it doesn't matter to him, right? Again, you've got to play by an even field, like if this was somebody other than Ballmer. So there's that. But I do think that just due to the severity of this, how public it is, this probably is something other than just monetary.
Yeah, and that's if the NBA does, again, if the NBA, if all of
If
this,
they
and
get
who knows
involved.
how long this process is going to take to play out, but if all of this is accurate and true, these allegations, then yeah, I could see where it winds up being something that, you know, the Clippers lose draft capital. I mean, there's the Joe Smith situation where he was promised, you know, there was an under the table agreement for his next contract with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and that's where the Wolves lost draft picks. Now, I don't know that if this goes that far or what the NBA will find here, but if it turns out that the Clippers were doing some underhanded things, like for example, in the suit, it's mentioned that Randy Shelton says that he had the assistant GM of the Clippers reaching out to him while Kawhi was with the Raptors to get medical information about Kawhi Leonard to find out about his health. And he was asked to use discretion, meaning don't tell anybody about this, but he was being asked to give them information, medical information about Kawhi Leonard, and asked to talk about whether or not Kawhi would be open to joining the Clippers, which, look, again, this kind of back channeling happens. Chandler Parsons was in the NBA for years, in part, not but just because he was a good player, but in part because he knew everybody. He networked with everybody, and he was the guy that could connect all those teams and things and do stuff behind the scenes. But this, reaching out to a trainer, to Kawhi's known friend, to find out medical info, that I have a feeling the NBA would not be too pleased with.
That's like going a step too far, in my opinion. That's a breach of trust. You can't go out and try to get somebody's medical information. I understand from their perspective, they're trying to plan their future, but like that's kind of crazy to me that they were doing that. And it shows, in my opinion, that they had no limits, nothing that they weren't willing to do to get what they wanted to get out of that situation. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, saying that essentially the the Clippers were pursuing Leonard through Randy Shelton, and that they set up numerous phone calls with him. And Shelton, again, alleging that he talked to assistant general manager Mark Hughes several times. I think he said 15 times in the suit, if not more, about trying to get Kawhi to join the Clippers. Look, getting a superstar on an NBA team, it's a big deal. It's a big deal, not just for the team on the floor, but it's a big deal financially. There's a windfall that comes with having a superstar on your team, attracting eyeballs and all of that. Yeah, here it is. Shelton and Hughes spoke approximately 15 times on the phone. That's not good for the
all
Clippers.
the way back in 2017 as well. This was a long time ago.
Yeah, this was a long pursuit here for the Clippers of Kawhi Leonard. Yeah, even saying during the championship run, here it is, during the championship run, Shelton was asked to meet with the Clippers regarding Kawhi Leonard's willingness to sign with the Clippers. And in this meeting, Shelton met with John Mayer and Lee Jenkins of the Clippers and the director of medical and performance. So they're trying to get medical info on him. And the Clippers succeeded, and they were able to sign Kawhi. And then they followed that by signing Shelton. And the Clippers, the suit also alleges that the Clippers made it clear that, hey, it was going to be beneficial for Shelton if Kawhi Leonard did sign with them. And then, lo and behold, he gets hired by them shortly after Kawhi signs. Very clearly, based on what this suit is describing, Shelton saw this as the Clippers pursued Kawhi Leonard through him.
Yeah, definitely. And he was the catalyst for this, basically. And they were trying to find a way, a back channel, like we mentioned earlier, to get to Kawhi through somebody that was very close to Kawhi, that had intimate knowledge of Kawhi and could maybe help them, pursue him. I got to ask you as well, in a related topic of that offseason, do you think that, I don't, just personally, I have no clue what Magic thought was happening there, because they were not operating in good faith between the two LA teams with Kawhi. That situation was weird then, and it's especially weird with this context. So what did you think about that, in hindsight?
There was a thing going around at the time that the Kawhi camp leaked some stuff to Magic Johnson, wanting to see if it would
If it would come
remain
out.
quiet,
Yeah.
or if it would come out. And they don't like things getting out in public. It got out in public, and that negative. Again, these are rumors. This is not factual. This is just rumors. Rumors that Kawhi's camp was not happy that that information got out. So perhaps that was part of it. I don't know if Kawhi was always focused in on the Clippers or what that was going to look like. I think there was a degree of that for sure. And then, but he wanted the Clippers to get Paul George. And when they did, that's what sealed the deal. That's why the Clippers traded so much for Paul George, because they looked at it as trading for both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, because you weren't getting Kawhi without PG, and they were keeping Kawhi away from the Lakers. But it is interesting when now considering all of this, the context of that whole situation. Maybe it changes a little bit, and the Clippers' pursuit of Kawhi is a long-term thing, where the Lakers really just a leverage point.
Chip.
Yeah, bargaining chip for the hey, if you don't go get this guy that I want, I'm going to go to if you could threaten the Clippers with anything, it would be a superstar player going to the Lakers instead, right? So we're the Lakers just a leverage point. Perhaps that's something to consider there. But he also alleges, Shelton does, the promises made to Leonard that the organization was committed to his long-term health were not kept. And the Clippers subverted their promises. They hired another strength and conditioning coach. And just essentially, because I know there's a lot here, but essentially alleging that Leonard was required. I know we criticize Kawhi all the time for not playing very much, but that Leonard was required to play a lot more than his injury should have allowed him to. And that was detrimental to his long-term health, and that the Clippers were ignoring this. Yeah, that's a scary situation too. If that turns out to be true, that the Clippers were pushing Kawhi to play when he should not have, if this is the varsity blues situation, get that needle away from his knee. Yeah, that could be a big problem for the Clippers, both in terms of the NBA, but also from a league-wide perception. If players start looking at the Clippers as an organization that pushes you to play when you should not be on the court, that's not going to be a good thing for their reputation with free agents, with trade targets, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. There's multiple instances in here where they're talking about how basically one thing should be the case for Kawhi, but the Clippers are pushing the opposite. So, so far we've talked about how the Clippers have been willing to try all these different avenues with Kawhi. It seems like they're not as willing to do that from what I'm getting from this. It's just kind of been the byproduct of what's been happening here. They've been pushing for him to play. They've been pushing for productivity because obviously they want to be competitive and they want to win, and they know they can do that, or they could have done that with Kawhi and PG on the team together. They just never really got to that peak yet, or I guess because George is gone now, maybe they just don't get there anymore. But regardless, yeah, it's definitely pretty interesting that they are not as in on trying to, at least based on this anyway, trying to manage him and just trying to find ways to get him out there. So there's just so much in here from different avenues, whether it's the treating of the trainer, the way that they pursued Kawhi initially, the handling of Kawhi while he was on the team, and up to this point still. So definitely a crazy read.
Now, I would definitely go check it out. It's all together in the thread from Chris Haynes. We're not going to go through every single point in it, but those are kind of the big picture, the Cliff Notes version of what's in there. But there's a lot more stuff to dig into if you want to check out the thread on Chris Haynes' Twitter. A lot of stuff, or X account. There's a lot of stuff going in there. And one thing that I would just caution, again, the Clippers have already said this is all untrue. Of course they've said that. But one thing to keep in mind while we're reading stuff like this is there's two sides to every story, if not more. And so this is Randy Shelton's account. Obviously, it all sounds very, very bad for the Clippers. It makes the Clippers look terrible. And if it's true, well, then there's going to be repercussions. But that's what this lawsuit will figure out. I'm sure this will all play out, and we'll see ultimately what happens. The Clippers will have their own version of what happened, why it happened, and they'll be able to explain why they think this is all incorrect or not accurate. So before rushing to judgment and just dooming the Clippers as, oh my gosh, they are these terrible ghouls pushing Kawhi Leonard to play when he shouldn't, let's see what the other side of the story is. That would just be my only word of caution there. But if, again, big if, all of this stuff turns out to be accurate, this is not a good look for a Clippers team that just opened a brand new, very expensive arena, and Kawhi Leonard right now not in action. Will be interesting to see, how does Kawhi respond to this? What do the Clippers do? What does the NBA do? there's a lot more to come with this situation.
Definitely. It is ridiculous, but we'll keep you guys locked with any new information that comes out from this or around the league. Speaking of which, there has been a really interesting story about reporters in the locker room, which Trevor covered earlier today in a video that you definitely need to watch right now.